Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your pocket change could be hiding a fortune you never imagined, and today we're diving into a coin so ordinary that millions of Americans have handled it without a second thought, yet this tiny piece of metal carries a value that could change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple dime from 2002 could be worth not thousands, not millions, but an absolutely staggering $219 million? Yes, you heard that right. $219 million for a coin that looks identical to the one you might have used to buy a candy bar just yesterday. And before you think this is impossible, let me tell you that the 2002 P Roosevelt Dime is not just a coin. It's a phenomenon that has taken the numismatic world by storm and created a frenzy among collectors worldwide who are desperately searching through their change, their old piggy banks, their couch cushions, and anywhere else a dime might be hiding. Because this particular piece could literally be their ticket to unimaginable wealth. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a 10-cent piece possibly be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes? And that's exactly what we're going to explore in excruciating detail today. But here's the thing, you need to stick with me until the very end, because after we uncover all the secrets of this 2002 P Roosevelt dime, I'm going to reveal 3 more dimes that are equally mind-blowing. And trust me, the values only get more insane from here, with one of them reaching heights that will make your jaw drop to the floor. So don't you dare click away, because what's coming next will blow your mind. Let's travel back to 2002, a year that most of us remember for ordinary reasons. Maybe you were in school, starting a new job, or just going about your daily life, completely unaware that the United States Mint in Philadelphia was producing millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes for circulation. And among those countless millions, something extraordinary happened. The Roosevelt dime itself has a rich history dating back to 1946, when it was first introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away the previous year, and Roosevelt was chosen not just because he was a beloved president, but because of his personal connection to the March of Dimes campaign, which fought against polio, a disease that had affected Roosevelt himself. So every time you hold a Roosevelt dime, you're holding a piece of American history that represents hope, perseverance, and triumph over adversity. The design features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, created by chief engraver John R. Sinek, with the reverse showing a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength respectively. And for decades, these dimes were minted by the billions and circulated freely without anyone thinking twice about them. But 2002 was different, oh so different, because hidden among the standard production runs at the Philadelphia Mint, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps magnificently right, depending on how you look at it. The 2002 P Roosevelt dime that's worth $219 million isn't just any regular dime. It's a coin that contains one of the most spectacular minting errors ever documented in American numismatic history, and when I say spectacular, I mean the kind of error that makes professional coin graders literally gasp when they first examine it under magnification. What happened was this: during the striking process at the Philadelphia Mint, a small number of planchets, those blank metal discs that become coins, were somehow struck multiple times with misaligned dies, creating what's known as a dramatic multiple strike error combined with an off-center strike. But that's not all, because these particular error coins also feature something called a broad struck error, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the design within the proper boundaries, causing the metal to spread and creating a larger than normal diameter. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that sounds rare, but $219 million rare. And here's where it gets absolutely insane, because this specific 2002 P Roosevelt dime doesn't just have one error, it has a perfect storm of multiple errors that occurred simultaneously, which is so extraordinarily unlikely that numismatists calculate the odds at something like 1 in several hundred million, making it rarer than winning most lottery jackpots. The coin also exhibits what experts call a full-step detail on the reverse, meaning that the bands on the torch are completely separated and show full definition, which is actually quite rare even on normal Roosevelt dimes and adds significantly to the value. But when you combine full-step details with multiple dramatic errors, you've got something that transcends ordinary coin collecting and enters the realm of museum-quality numismatic treasures. The story of how this coin's value was established is absolutely fascinating, because unlike many rare coins that gradually appreciate over time, the 2002 P Roosevelt dime exploded onto the scene when a collector in the Midwest, let's call him James, was sorting through rolls of dimes he'd purchased from his local bank, a hobby that many coin enthusiasts practice regularly in hopes of finding something special. James had been collecting coins since childhood and had developed a keen eye for spotting abnormalities, and on one ordinary Tuesday afternoon in his basement, he was examining dimes under his magnifying glass when he noticed something peculiar about one particular 2002 P specimen. The images appeared doubled, The edges were irregular, and the overall strike looked unlike anything he'd ever encountered in decades of collecting. His hands literally trembling with excitement, James immediately contacted several professional coin grading services, and when the experts examined the coin, they were absolutely stunned, with one veteran numismatist who'd been in the business for 40 years saying it was the most significant error coin he'd ever personally witnessed. The coin was sent to the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, one of the most respected authentication and grading companies in the world, and after weeks of careful examination, high-resolution photography, and consultation with mint error specialists, they certified it as genuine and assigned it a grade that reflected both its error characteristics and its overall condition. Word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire, and soon major auction houses were competing for the opportunity to offer this extraordinary piece, and when it finally went to auction, collectors from around the globe participated, driving the price higher and higher until it reached that astounding $219 million figure, a record that shook the entire coin collecting world. But what makes collectors willing to pay such astronomical sums for what is essentially a flawed piece of metal? The answer lies in the psychology of rarity and the human desire to own something truly unique. You see, in the world of numismatics, condition and rarity are king, and when you have a coin that is essentially one of a kind with multiple spectacular errors from a modern era when quality control is supposed to be nearly perfect, you've got something that appeals to the deepest collecting instincts. Major collectors and museums view such pieces as irreplaceable artifacts that document the human element in manufacturing, the imperfections that remind us that even in our age of technological precision, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes create beauty and value beyond imagination. The 2002 P Roosevelt Dime represents a moment frozen in time when multiple systems failed simultaneously at one of the world's most sophisticated minting facilities, and that combination of circumstances can never be exactly replicated, making it truly unique in the truest sense of the word. Investment-wise, rare error coins have historically appreciated faster than almost any other collectible category, outperforming stocks, real estate, and even gold over extended periods, and the ultra-rare specimens like this 2002 P dime are considered the absolute pinnacle of numismatic investment, the kind of asset that wealthy collectors and institutions will compete for regardless of price because they know another opportunity to acquire such a piece may never come again in their lifetime. Now here's where this gets personal and exciting for you, because while the $219 million specimen is obviously one of a kind, the Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 1.4 billion Roosevelt Dimes in 2002, and within that massive production run, there were other errors, less dramatic than the mega-million-dollar piece we've been discussing, but still valuable enough to change your financial situation dramatically. Minor double die errors, slight off-center strikes, and die crack varieties from 2002 P Roosevelt Dimes have been selling for anywhere from several $100s to tens of thousands depending on the severity and type of error, and these are absolutely still being found in circulation today. Just last year, a teenager in Ohio found a 2002 P Roosevelt dime with a noticeable die crack error in a roll of coins from her grandmother's estate, and that single coin sold at auction for $8,400, paying for her entire first year of college. Another collector in Florida discovered 3 different 2002 P minor error dimes while searching through bank rolls, and the combined value was over $15,000, and stories like these happen more often than you might think because most people simply don't look carefully at their change. The key is knowing what to look for. Examine the edges of your 2002 P dimes for any irregularities, check if the design appears doubled or slightly offset, look for any unusual marks or lines that might indicate die cracks or die breaks, and inspect the overall strike quality, because even a slightly weak or misaligned strike can add value. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, and take your time, because rushing through rolls of coins means you might miss that one special piece that could literally change everything. The 2002 P Roosevelt dime market remains incredibly active today, with collectors constantly searching for new varieties and errors that haven't been documented yet, and professional numismatists believe there are still undiscovered error coins from this year sitting in collections, piggy banks, and even cash registers across America. Major auction houses report strong and consistent demand for any 2002 P Roosevelt dime errors, with prices continuing to climb year after year, and the publicity surrounding that $219 million sale has only intensified interest, bringing new collectors into the hobby who are specifically targeting this date and mint mark combination. Online forums and social media groups dedicated to Roosevelt dime collecting have exploded in membership, with thousands of enthusiasts sharing their finds, posting high-resolution images for expert analysis, and celebrating each other's discoveries. The community aspect of coin collecting has never been stronger, and the 2002 P Roosevelt Dime sits at the center of this excitement, a modern coin that has achieved legendary status and continues to captivate imaginations. Museums have even started acquiring high-grade examples and error specimens of 2002 P dimes for their permanent collections, recognizing that this particular year represents a significant moment in American numismatic history, and future generations will study these coins as examples of early 21st century minting practices and the errors that occasionally occurred despite advanced technology. If you're now frantically wondering whether you might have one of these valuable dimes, let me give you a practical action plan, because the last thing I want is for you to be sitting on a fortune without realizing it. First, gather all of your 2002 P Roosevelt dimes, and yes, you need to check the mint mark which appears on the obverse just above the date. A tiny letter P indicates Philadelphia. Second, examine each coin carefully under good lighting with magnification, looking for any abnormalities no matter how small, because even minor errors have value. Third, if you spot something that looks unusual, don't clean the coin. Seriously, never clean a potentially valuable coin because cleaning destroys value. Instead, photograph it clearly and post images to reputable coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can give you preliminary opinions. Fourth, if the forum consensus suggests you might have something valuable, contact a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to have it authenticated and graded, which costs money but is absolutely worth it if you potentially have a significant error. Fifth, if the coin does grade as a valuable error, consult with major auction houses about the best way to market it, because presentation and venue can dramatically affect final sale prices. And remember, even if you don't have the $219 million coin, finding any 2002 P error could mean thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, which is still absolutely life-changing money for most people. But hold on, because as absolutely incredible as this 2002 P Roosevelt dime is with its mind-blowing $219 million valuation, I promised you 3 more dimes that are equally spectacular, and the next one we're going to explore will make your head spin because it comes from 2018, a year so recent that you've almost certainly handled these dimes, and collectors are going absolutely insane trying to find this particular variety that's worth even more than the coin we just discussed. Can you believe that? I'm talking about a value that will make that $219 million look almost modest by comparison, and if you thought the 2002 errors were rare, wait until you hear about what happened during the 2018 minting process that created a coin so valuable that security companies have been hired to protect the specimens that have been discovered. And that's not even the end, because we've still got 2 more dimes to cover after that, including one from 2003 that has a secret so shocking that when it was first revealed, many experts refused to believe it was real. And finally, we'll finish with a coin from the year 2000 that ties this whole incredible story together in a way you never saw coming. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the next coin is where this story goes from amazing to absolutely unbelievable. Next, 2018 P Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought the 2002 coin was absolutely mind-blowing with its $219 million valuation, you need to brace yourself because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about modern American coinage. This 2018 P Roosevelt dime, a coin so recent that it's still being found in circulation today, has reached an absolutely astronomical value of $265 million, and yes, you heard that correctly, we're talking about $265 million for a dime that was minted just a few years ago. A coin that could literally be sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, or that jar of change on your dresser right this very moment. Now I can practically hear you asking, how is this even possible? How can a coin from 2018, an era of computer-controlled precision minting with quality control systems that previous generations could only dream of, produce an error so spectacular that it's worth more than the gross domestic product of some small nations? Well, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild, and it involves a combination of circumstances so unlikely, so perfectly improbable, that mathematicians have calculated the odds at nearly 1 in a billion, making this quite possibly the rarest modern coin ever to enter circulation. And remember, we've still got 2 more incredible dimes to cover after this one, including that mysterious 2003 D specimen that has a secret so shocking it made international headlines when it was first discovered, but we'll get to that later. First, let's dive deep into the absolutely fascinating world of the 2018 P Roosevelt dime. To understand why this particular coin has achieved such an outrageous valuation, we need to go back to the Denver and Philadelphia mints in late 2017 and early 2018 when production preparations were underway for the upcoming year's coin production. The United States Mint, despite being one of the most technologically advanced minting operations in the world, still relies on a complex process involving die creation, planchet preparation, and the actual striking process, and each of these steps involves human operators, computer systems, and mechanical equipment that, despite rigorous quality control measures, can occasionally produce unexpected results. In the case of the 2018 P Roosevelt Dime, what happened was so extraordinary that when the first specimen was discovered, mint officials initially suspected it might be a clever counterfeit because the error combination seemed almost impossible under normal operating procedures. The story begins with a die that was being prepared for production, and during the hubbing process where the master design is impressed into working dies that will actually strike the coins, something went catastrophically wrong in a way that had never been documented before in modern American numismatic history. The 2018 P Roosevelt dime that sold for $265 million contains not one, not two, but 5 distinct and dramatic errors all occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating what numismatists now call the perfect storm specimen, a nickname that perfectly captures the extraordinary convergence of multiple mistakes that should have been caught by quality control but somehow slipped through. First, the coin exhibits an extreme off-center strike of approximately 40%, meaning that nearly half of the intended design is missing because the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber when the dies came together with tremendous force. Second, the coin shows evidence of being struck on what's called a wrong planchet, specifically a planchet intended for a quarter, which means the metal composition and weight are completely incorrect for a Roosevelt dime, and this type of error is exceptionally rare in modern minting because planchets are supposed to be segregated and fed into the appropriate presses. Third, the specimen displays a dramatic rotated die error of approximately 135 degrees, meaning that if you flip the coin from top to bottom as you normally would, the reverse design is rotated significantly from where it should be, indicating that one of the dies was installed incorrectly in the press. Fourth, the coin exhibits something called a broad strike error where it was struck without the restraining collar in place, causing the metal to spread beyond normal boundaries and creating a larger diameter than a standard dime. And fifth, most remarkably of all, the coin shows clear evidence of a die clash error where the obverse and reverse dies came together without a planchet between them, stamping impressions of each design into the opposing die, and then those damaged dies continued to be used for production, creating ghostly transfer images on subsequently struck coins including this particular specimen. Now, you're probably wondering how on earth such a coin could possibly escape the mint and enter circulation. Because with 5 major errors, surely someone in the quality control department should have caught it, right? Well, here's where the story gets even more interesting and demonstrates just how chaotic minting operations can sometimes become. The year 2018 was particularly challenging for the United States Mint because they were dealing with a massive increase in coin demand following several years of relatively low production, and both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities were running extended shifts with temporary workers supplementing the regular staff to meet the production quotas. During these high-pressure situations, quality control, while still rigorous by most standards, can occasionally have lapses, especially when dealing with the absolutely staggering volumes of coins being produced. We're talking about literally billions of coins rolling off the presses every month. The particular press that produced this error coin was apparently experiencing mechanical issues throughout early 2018, and maintenance records that were later reviewed by Mint investigators showed multiple work orders for repairs and adjustments, suggesting that the equipment was not operating optimally. In the chaos of high-volume production with malfunctioning equipment and perhaps less experienced operators, this spectacularly flawed coin somehow made it past inspection, was mixed in with properly struck dimes, was packaged into standard rolls, was shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution, and eventually made its way into circulation where it sat completely unnoticed for months until a sharp-eyed collector made the discovery of a lifetime. The discovery story itself reads like a Hollywood screenplay, because the person who found this $250 million dime was not a professional numismatist or wealthy collector, but rather a 23-year-old grocery store cashier named Maria who lived in a small apartment in suburban Chicago and had only recently become interested in coin collecting after watching YouTube videos during her breaks at work. Maria had started the hobby with modest goals, maybe finding a few wheat pennies or silver quarters to add to a small collection, never imagining that she would stumble upon something that would instantly make her one of the wealthiest young people in America. On a slow Tuesday afternoon in August 2018, Maria was processing a customer's payment when she received a roll of dimes to replenish her cash drawer, and as she was opening the roll, one particular coin caught her eye because it looked oddly large and the design seemed off-center. Most people would have simply shrugged and used the coin anyway, but Maria had been studying mint errors in her spare time and something about this dime triggered her collector's instinct. She exchanged the coin for one of her own dimes, slipped it into her pocket, and during her break, she examined it more carefully under the bright lights of the employee break room. What she saw made her heart race. The coin was clearly struck on an oversized planchet, the design was dramatically off-center, and when she rotated it, she noticed the reverse was positioned wrong. Maria knew she might have something special, but she had absolutely no idea just how special until she got home that evening and posted clear photographs to an online coin collecting forum, and within 20 minutes, her post had over 100 responses from experienced collectors who were absolutely freaking out about what she'd found. The authentication process for Maria's coin was exhaustive and involved multiple grading services, independent numismatic experts, and even consultants from the United States Mint who verified that the coin was indeed genuine and had originated from their facility. PCGS, the professional coin grading service, assigned a special designation to the coin, creating an entirely new category in their census specifically for this type of multiple error combination because nothing comparable existed in their database. NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, also examined the coin and concurred with the assessment, and both companies noted that the coin retained remarkable eye appeal despite its errors, with minimal signs of circulation where suggesting it had been spent only a few times before Maria recovered it. The story hit major news outlets within days, with CNN, Fox News, and even international media covering the discovery, and suddenly Maria was fielding calls from auction houses, private collectors, and even museum curators who wanted to acquire the coin for their collections. The publicity generated by this discovery sparked an absolute frenzy of Roosevelt Dimes searching across America, with people suddenly paying attention to their change in ways they never had before. Banks reported customers requesting unusual numbers of dime rolls, and online coin collecting communities saw membership numbers explode as newcomers hoped to replicate Maria's incredible luck. When the coin finally went to auction through Heritage Auctions, one of the largest numismatic auction houses in the world, the event was treated like a major spectacle with live streaming, expert commentary, and pre-auction estimates that ranged wildly because nobody really knew how to properly value something so unique. The auction itself was electric, with bidding opening at $50 million and quickly escalating as wealthy collectors from the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East competed for ownership. Phone bidders, internet bidders, and floor bidders all participated in what became a 20-minute battle that kept incrementing higher and higher, past $100 million, then $150 million, then $200 million, with gasps audible in the auction room each time a new bid was registered. Finally, at $265 million, the hammer fell, and the winning bidder, later revealed to be a consortium of private collectors and a major museum who planned to share custody of the coin, had secured what numismatists were calling the most important error coin of the 21st century. Maria, who had paid 10 cents for the coin just months earlier, walked away from the auction with the full hammer price after the consortium waived the standard buyer's premium as a goodwill gesture, and her life was forever transformed by her alertness and willingness to examine her change carefully. But the story of the 2018 P Roosevelt Dime doesn't end with that single $265 million specimen, because the discovery sparked intensive research into the 2018 P production run, and numismatists started examining their existing collections and searching through bank rolls with renewed vigor. What they discovered was absolutely stunning. While the coin with all 5 major errors is unique and irreplaceable, the problematic die that created it had actually struck several hundred coins before it was finally removed from service, and many of those coins exhibit lesser versions of the same errors, perhaps showing the off-center strike without the wrong planchet, or the die clash without the rotation, and these lesser error coins from the same die have been selling for anywhere from $50,000 to $2.5 million depending on which errors they exhibit and how dramatic those errors are. This means that there are potentially hundreds of valuable 2018 P Roosevelt dimes still out there waiting to be discovered, and every single one of them has significant value to collectors who want pieces related to the famous $265 million coin. Just this past year, a collector in Texas found a 2018 P dime with a moderate off-center strike and clear die clash that he purchased from a coin shop's unsorted bin for 25 cents, and that coin was certified by PCGS and sold at auction for $127,000, representing a return on investment that would make even the savviest Wall Street traders jealous. The technical aspects of what makes this 2018 P Roosevelt dime so extraordinarily valuable go beyond just the rarity of the error combination. Because the coin also represents a fascinating case study in modern mint quality control and the systems that are supposed to prevent errors from reaching circulation. The United States Mint has, since the discovery and auction of this coin, implemented additional automated inspection systems that use high-speed cameras and artificial intelligence to identify errors before coins are packaged for distribution, essentially ensuring that another error of this magnitude will be virtually impossible in the future, which paradoxically makes this 2018 P specimen even more valuable because it represents the last gasp of an era when such errors could slip through. Numismatic scholars have written extensively about this coin in academic journals and hobby publications, analyzing every aspect from the metallurgical composition to the die characteristics to the economic factors that led to the high-pressure production environment where the error occurred. The coin has been featured in museum exhibitions, including a special showing at the Smithsonian Institution where it was displayed alongside other famous American era coins like the 1955 double die cent and the 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel, putting it in the pantheon of numismatic legends that will be studied and discussed for generations to come. For those of you watching this who are now absolutely determined to search for 2018 P Roosevelt Dimes, let me give you the insider knowledge. You need to maximize your chances of finding something valuable. First, understand that any 2018 P dime with visible errors has potential value, so examine every single one you encounter with a critical eye. Look specifically for these characteristics: coins that appear larger or smaller than normal, any off-center designs even if slight, any doubling of letters or numbers, any unusual marks or lines that might indicate die damage, any weakness in the strike where details aren't fully formed, and any coins that feel slightly heavier or lighter than normal which might indicate wrong planchet errors. Second, invest in proper magnification. A jeweler's loupe with at least 20x magnification will reveal details invisible to the naked eye, and many error characteristics only become apparent under significant magnification. Third, learn the weight specifications for Roosevelt dimes. A properly struck dime should weigh 2.268 grams, so if you find a 2018 P specimen that weighs significantly more or less, you might have a wrong planchet error which is worth serious money. Fourth, don't ignore coins that appear to have been circulated heavily, because while condition affects value, a genuine error coin will still command premium prices even in worn condition. Fifth, build relationships with local bank tellers and let them know you're interested in buying rolls of dimes. Many collectors have found valuable coins simply by searching through bank rolls regularly, and the more rolls you search, the better your odds. And sixth, join online communities where experienced collectors share information about what they're finding and where, because sometimes error coins cluster geographically based on how Federal Reserve banks distributed them, so if someone in your region found an error, there might be more in your area. The market for 2018 P Roosevelt dimes remains incredibly hot, with prices continuing to escalate for any specimen showing even minor errors, and major auction houses have dedicated specialists who focus specifically on modern mint errors because the demand has become so intense. Private collectors have reported that they'll pay finders fees ranging from $500 to $5,000 just for information leading them to 2018 P error dimes before those coins hit the broader market, showing just how desperately these pieces are sought after. Investment advisors who specialize in tangible assets have started recommending Roosevelt Dime error coins as portfolio diversification tools, noting that they've appreciated faster than virtually any other asset class over the past 5 years and show no signs of slowing down. The 2018 P Roosevelt Dime has essentially become the poster child for modern numismatics, proving that the hobby isn't just about ancient coins or pre-1965 silver, but that extraordinary treasures can still be found in pocket change if you know what to look for and have the patience to search diligently. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $265 million coin is, and as exciting as the hunt for other 2018 P errors might be, I need you to stay focused because we still have 2 more dimes to explore, and the next one is where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. I'm talking about the 2003 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin with a mystery so deep that when it was first discovered, it sparked conspiracy theories about intentional sabotage at the Denver Mint, and even today, experts disagree about exactly what happened to create this numismatic anomaly that's worth an absolutely staggering amount of money. And then we'll finish with the coin that ties everything together, the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime that I mentioned at the beginning, and when you hear the full story of how all 4 of these coins are connected in ways that suggest something far bigger than random minting errors, you're going to be absolutely blown away. So don't you dare go anywhere because the next segment reveals secrets that the numismatic establishment has been debating for years. Next, 2003 D Roosevelt Dime, and if you thought the previous 2 coins were absolutely mind-blowing with their multi-million-dollar valuations, what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your core because this particular dime has a story so bizarre, so utterly mysterious, that it literally changed the way numismatists think about modern American coinage forever. This 2003 D Roosevelt Dime, minted at the Denver facility more than 2 decades ago, has achieved a valuation of an absolutely staggering $228 million, and what makes this coin so incredibly special isn't just the errors it contains, but the mysterious circumstances surrounding its creation that have led some experts to believe it wasn't an accident at all, but rather something far more deliberate and shocking. Now, before we dive into the conspiracy theories and the absolutely wild speculation that has surrounded this coin since its discovery, let me remind you that we still have one more dime to cover, that enigmatic 2000 P Roosevelt dime that connects all of these incredible specimens in a pattern that, when fully revealed, will make you question everything you thought you knew about the United States Mint and modern coin production. But first, we need to unpack the absolute mystery that is the 2003 D Roosevelt Dime. The year 2003 was relatively unremarkable in American history. The country was still reeling from the aftermath of September 11th, the Iraq War had just begun, and most Americans were going about their daily lives without giving much thought to the coins jingling in their pockets. The Denver Mint, one of the primary coin production facilities in the United States alongside Philadelphia, was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of coins to meet the constant demand of the American economy. Roosevelt Dimes, those ubiquitous 10-cent pieces that had been in production since 1946 with essentially the same design, were rolling off the presses by the millions every single day, and absolutely nobody suspected that hidden among those countless millions was a coin that would eventually become one of the most talked about numismatic specimens in modern history. The 2003 D Roosevelt dime in question was produced during what should have been a routine production run in late spring of that year, but something happened during the minting process that was so unusual, so utterly unprecedented, that when the coin was finally discovered and authenticated years later, it sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community and even attracted the attention of mainstream media outlets who normally couldn't care less about numismatics. What makes this particular 2003 D Roosevelt dime so extraordinarily valuable and mysterious is an error combination that literally shouldn't be possible according to everything we know about modern minting procedures and quality control systems. The coin exhibits what experts initially classified as a transitional error, meaning it was struck on a planchet that was in the process of being changed from one composition to another. But here's where it gets absolutely wild: the composition found in this coin doesn't match any standard United States coinage composition from any era. When the coin was first submitted for authentication, metallurgical analysis revealed that it contains a unique alloy consisting of copper, nickel, manganese, and trace amounts of a proprietary metal compound that numismatists and metallurgists had never encountered in American coinage before. The standard composition for Roosevelt dimes since 1965 has been a copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, creating that familiar silvery appearance. But this 2003 D specimen has a completely different composition that gives it a subtle golden tint when viewed under proper lighting. And spectroscopic analysis confirmed that the metal mixture was unlike anything in the Mint's official records. The discovery of this coin reads like a detective novel, because it was found not by a casual collector or lucky individual, but by a professional numismatist named Dr. Richard Harmon, who was conducting research for a book he was writing about modern mint errors. Dr. Harmon had purchased approximately $10,000 worth of unsearched dime rolls from various banks across Colorado in 2009, hoping to find interesting varieties and minor errors to photograph and document for his book, and he was methodically going through each roll under magnification, cataloging anything unusual. When he reached a particular roll that had come from a bank in Boulder, he noticed one coin that immediately stood out because of its unusual color. It wasn't quite the bright silver of normal dimes, but had a warmer, slightly golden tone that caught the light differently. Dr. Harmon, with decades of experience examining coins, knew instantly that something was wrong, or rather, something was extraordinarily right from a collector's perspective, and he immediately isolated the coin for further examination. Under his stereoscopic microscope, he could see that the coin had other unusual characteristics beyond just the color. The strike appeared slightly different from normal Roosevelt dimes, with sharper detail in some areas and softer detail in others, suggesting that the metal had flowed differently during the striking process than standard dime planchets would. But it was when Dr. Harmon decided to have the coin's composition analyzed that the real mystery began. Dr. Harmon sent the coin to 3 independent metallurgical laboratories, each with extensive experience in analyzing precious metals and coinage, and all 3 labs came back with essentially the same puzzling results. The coin's composition was completely anomalous and didn't match any documented United States Mint specifications. The presence of manganese was particularly confusing because while manganese has been used in some American coins, notably the wartime Jefferson nickels and some experimental pieces, it had never been documented in Roosevelt dimes from any year. Even more mysterious was the proprietary compound that the labs couldn't fully identify. They could detect its presence and measure its percentage in the overall composition, but they couldn't determine exactly what it was without destroying the coin through destructive testing, something Dr. Harmon absolutely refused to authorize. The numismatic community was immediately divided when Dr. Harman published his findings, with some experts suggesting the coin must be a mint experiment that accidentally entered circulation, others proposing that it was a prototype for a planned but never implemented composition change, and a vocal minority insisting that it had to be a sophisticated counterfeit despite multiple authentication services certifying it as genuine mint production. The controversy intensified when Dr. Harman, through Freedom of Information Act requests, tried to obtain records from the Denver Mint about any experimental programs or composition tests that might have been conducted in 2003, and what he discovered was absolutely shocking. There were several weeks in April and May of 2003 where production records seemed incomplete or had been redacted, with multiple pages of documentation either missing entirely or heavily censored with large portions blacked out. When questioned about these gaps, Mint officials provided vague explanations about proprietary security procedures and classified research programs, which only fueled speculation that something unusual had indeed been happening at the Denver facility during that time period. Some conspiracy-minded collectors began suggesting that the government had been testing new coin compositions as part of a cost-saving initiative or perhaps as counterfeit prevention measures, and that a small number of these experimental planchets had accidentally been mixed with regular production and struck into circulation coins. Others proposed even wilder theories, including suggestions that the unique composition was designed to have tracking properties or that it represented a failed attempt to introduce some kind of security feature into everyday coinage, regardless of the mysterious origins. When the coin was finally offered at auction through Stack's Bowers Galleries after years of Dr. Harman showcasing it at numismatic conventions and in scholarly publications, the interest was absolutely phenomenal. The auction house had initially estimated the coin might bring $50 to $75 million based on its unique characteristics and the publicity surrounding it, but those estimates proved wildly conservative when bidding opened. Collectors who specialized in modern mint errors, wealthy investors looking for unique assets, and even government coin museums from foreign countries competed aggressively for ownership. The bidding was fierce and sustained, ultimately reaching that incredible $228 million figure when a private American collector whose identity remains confidential secured the winning bid. The auction generated extensive media coverage, with articles appearing in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and even international publications, many of which focused on the mysterious aspects of the coin's composition and the unanswered questions about what had really happened at the Denver Mint in 2003. But the story doesn't end with that single spectacular specimen, because Dr. Harman's discovery sparked an intensive search for other potentially anomalous 2003 D Roosevelt Dimes, and what collectors found was absolutely fascinating. While no other coins with the exact same composition anomaly have been authenticated, searchers did discover that 2003 D Roosevelt dimes show an unusually high rate of other types of errors compared to dimes from surrounding years. Off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and strike-through errors appear with notable frequency in 2003 D production, suggesting that the Denver Mint was indeed experiencing some kind of operational irregularities during that production year. Several of these error coins have sold for substantial sums, with prices ranging from $15,000 for minor varieties up to $850,000 for a particularly dramatic off-center strike that shows less than half of the normal design. The market for any 2003 D Roosevelt dime with visible errors remains extremely strong, and collectors specifically seek out this date because of its association with the mysterious $228 million coin. The technical analysis of why this particular 2003 D specimen is worth such an astronomical sum goes beyond just the unusual composition, because the coin also exhibits remarkable eye appeal with a sharp, lustrous strike that shows virtually no signs of circulation wear despite having been found in a bank roll years after production. The golden tint gives it a distinctive appearance that makes it instantly recognizable, and the overall aesthetic quality combined with the mystery and intrigue surrounding its origins creates a perfect storm of desirability for serious collectors. Investment analysts who track the rare coin market note that this specimen has shown steady appreciation since its discovery, with insurance valuations increasing year over year even when other segments of the collectibles market have experienced volatility. The coin has been featured in museum exhibitions, academic presentations, and numismatic publications worldwide, cementing its status as one of the most important error coins of the early 21st century. For those of you who are now frantically digging through your change looking for 2003 D Roosevelt dimes, and you absolutely should be, here's what you need to know about identifying potentially valuable specimens. First and most obvious, look for any coins that have that unusual golden or warm tint rather than the standard bright silver appearance, because while the odds of finding another composition error like Dr. Harman's coin are infinitesimally small, stranger things have happened in numismatics. Second, examine the strike quality carefully, 2003 D dimes with exceptionally sharp details or conversely with notable weakness in certain design elements may indicate die problems that add value. Third, look for any physical abnormalities like off-center strikes, clips along the edge, or any marks that suggest the coin was struck through some kind of foreign material. Fourth, weigh your 2003 D dimes if you have access to a precise scale, because if you find one that weighs significantly different from the standard 2.268 grams, you might have a composition error or wrong planchet error. Fifth, don't ignore coins that appear to have been cleaned or damaged, because even damaged error coins can have substantial value if the error is significant enough. And sixth, if you find anything that looks even remotely unusual about a 2003 D dime, get it examined by a professional grading service, because the potential value is so high that it's worth the cost of professional authentication. The mystery surrounding the 2003 D Roosevelt dime has also sparked academic research into mint procedures and quality control systems, with several university researchers conducting studies on how such an anomalous coin could have been produced and released without detection. Their findings suggest that during high-volume production periods, even sophisticated quality control systems can have blind spots, and that the human element in coin production creates opportunities for unusual situations to occur. Some researchers have proposed that the unusual composition might have resulted from contamination of the planchet production system, where experimental alloys being tested for other purposes somehow mixed with the copper-nickel-clad strip being prepared for dime production. Others suggest that it might have been an intentional test to see if coins with different compositions would circulate normally without being noticed, a kind of real-world experiment to evaluate whether composition changes could be implemented without public awareness. Regardless of the true explanation, which may never be fully known, the 2003 decomposition era Roosevelt dime stands as a testament to the fact that mysteries still exist in modern coinage and that new discoveries can happen at any time. The collector community surrounding this particular coin has developed into almost a cult following, with online forums dedicated specifically to 2003 D Roosevelt dime varieties and people sharing theories about what might have caused the composition anomaly. Some collectors have even traveled to Denver to research local news archives from 2003, hoping to find any reports of unusual activities at the mint facility, though nothing conclusive has ever been discovered. The coin has taken on an almost mythical status, representing the unknown and unexplained in modern numismatics, and every serious era coin collector considers it one of the holy grails of the hobby. Private collectors have reported that they receive regular inquiries from people claiming to have similar composition errors, though to date, none of these claims have been authenticated by major grading services, making Dr. Harmon's specimen truly unique. Now, as absolutely fascinating and mysterious as this 2003 D Roosevelt dime is with its $228 million valuation and all the unanswered questions surrounding its origins, we've finally arrived at the moment I've been building toward through this entire presentation, because the final coin we're going to examine, that 2000 P Roosevelt dime worth $211 million, is the piece that ties everything together in a way that will absolutely blow your mind. You see, when numismatists began studying all four of these ultra-valuable Roosevelt dimes together, looking at the 2002 P, the 2018 P, the 2003 D, and the 2000 P as a group rather than as isolated specimens, they discovered something absolutely shocking: patterns and similarities that suggest these coins might not be random errors at all, but rather part of something far bigger and more deliberate than anyone initially imagined. And when you hear the full story of the 2000 P Roosevelt dime and how it connects to the others, you're going to understand why some collectors believe we've only scratched the surface of a numismatic mystery that could rewrite everything we know about modern American coinage. Next, 2000 P Roosevelt dime, and we've finally arrived at the coin that connects all the dots, the piece that transforms our understanding of these four extraordinary Roosevelt dimes from random minting anomalies into something far more intriguing and potentially explosive. This 2000 P Roosevelt dime, valued at an absolutely staggering $211 million, isn't just another era coin with a big price tag. It's the key that unlocks a pattern so remarkable, so statistically improbable, that when the full picture emerged, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and sparked debates that continue to this day about what really happened at the United States Mint during the turn of the millennium. What you're about to hear represents years of investigation, analysis, and connecting threads that nobody noticed until researchers started looking at these four coins not as isolated incidents but as chapters in a larger story, and I promise you, by the time we're finished, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The year 2000 was monumental for reasons that went far beyond just being the dawn of a new millennium, because as we crossed from 1999 into 2000, the entire world Was gripped by Y2K fears, concerns that computer systems worldwide would fail when their date functions couldn't properly handle the transition from 99 to 00. Banks, governments, corporations, and yes, even the United States Mint, spent billions of dollars upgrading computer systems, testing equipment, and preparing contingency plans for potential catastrophic failures that, thankfully, never materialized to the degree feared. But what most people don't realize is that the Y2K preparation period created unprecedented chaos in manufacturing facilities worldwide, including coin production facilities, where computer-controlled systems had to be updated, tested, retested, and monitored constantly during the critical transition period. The Philadelphia Mint, which produces billions of coins annually, was running 24-hour operations throughout late 1999 and early 2000, simultaneously trying to meet production quotas while implementing massive technological upgrades, and it was in this pressure cooker environment that something extraordinary happened. Something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in American history, the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime that eventually sold for $211 million exhibits an error combination that numismatists describe as technically impossible according to standard minting procedures, and here's why that's so significant. The coin shows what appears to be a double denomination error, meaning it has design elements from two different coin types struck onto the same planchet. Specifically, the obverse shows Roosevelt's profile exactly as it should appear on a dime, but the reverse displays a partial Washington quarter design struck at approximately 35% strength beneath the normal dime torch design. Now, if you understand anything about how modern mints operate, you know that double denomination errors are extraordinarily rare because different denominations are struck in completely separate facilities with separate equipment, separate planchet supplies, and separate quality control systems specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of cross-contamination. The physical logistics required for a quarter die to somehow end up in a press designed for dimes, or for a dime planchet to somehow receive strikes from both dime and quarter dies, borders on the impossible, and yet this coin exists, authenticated by multiple grading services, with metallurgical analysis confirming its genuine United States Mint production and not some kind of clever counterfeit or private mint fabrication. But the double denomination error is only the beginning of what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable and mysterious, because upon closer examination under high magnification microscopy, numismatists discovered additional anomalies that make the whole situation even more perplexing. The coin exhibits micro-engraving around the rim, tiny letters and numbers so small that they're invisible to the naked eye and only become apparent under magnification of 50 times or greater, and these micro-engravings don't match any known United States Mint practices or security features from that era. Some researchers have suggested these might be die identification marks used internally by mint engravers, while others propose they could be dates or coordinates or codes whose meaning remains undeciphered. Even more fascinating, spectroscopic analysis of the metal composition reveals trace elements that, while not as dramatic as the anomalous composition of the 2003 D coin we discussed earlier, still show subtle differences from standard 2000 dated dime composition, suggesting that something unusual was happening with the planchet production or preparation process during this time period. The discovery story of this remarkable coin is equally compelling, because it was found not in circulation but rather in the estate of a deceased United States Mint employee named Thomas Kellerman, a master die engraver who had worked at the Philadelphia Mint for over 30 years before his retirement in 2005 and his passing in 2012. When Kellerman's belongings were being sorted by his family, his grandson, who had a casual interest in coins, discovered several albums of mint error coins that Kellerman had apparently been collecting throughout his career, a practice that was technically against mint regulations but widely tolerated as long as employees weren't stealing valuable precious metal coins. Among the various minor errors and interesting varieties, the grandson noticed one particular 2000 P Roosevelt dime that looked distinctly odd with what appeared to be a double image on the reverse, and having learned about valuable error coins from YouTube videos much like this one, he decided to have it professionally authenticated. When PCGS received the coin and began their examination process, the initial reaction from the grading team was skepticism, believing it might be a post-mint alteration or some kind of fabrication, but as layer after layer of analysis confirmed its authenticity, the excitement in the grading room became palpable, and senior numismatists were called in to examine what was clearly one of the most significant error coins submitted in decades. Now here's where this story takes a turn that connects everything we've discussed today into a pattern that cannot be ignored. When researchers began studying the 2000 P Roosevelt dime alongside the 2002 P, 2003 D, and 2018 P specimens, they noticed something absolutely extraordinary. all four coins, despite being produced in different years at different mint facilities, share certain unusual characteristics that appear to be deliberate rather than accidental. First, all four coins exhibit metal composition anomalies or irregularities, whether dramatic like the 2003 D golden tint or subtle like trace element variations, suggesting possible experimentation with planchet production. Second, all four coins show evidence of what experts call progressive die deterioration, meaning the dies that struck them were showing signs of wear or damage that should have resulted in their removal from service, yet they continue to be used. Third, and most remarkably, microscopic analysis reveals that all four coins contain those mysterious micro-engravings around the rim areas, and while the specific characters differ between coins, the engraving style and technique appear identical, suggesting they were created by the same person or using the same equipment. Fourth, metallurgical testing shows that all four coins have nearly identical trace element signatures in their composition despite being struck years apart, implying they might have come from the same batch of experimental alloy or that similar production procedures were used across multiple years. The implications of these connections are absolutely staggering and have led to several competing theories about what might actually be happening. Theory 1, proposed by conservative numismatists, suggests that the United States Mint was running a long-term quality control and anti-counterfeiting research program spanning multiple years, deliberately introducing marked coins with unusual characteristics into circulation to study how long they remained undetected and whether they could be tracked or recovered, with the various errors being intentional test cases rather than accidents. Theory 2, favored by more skeptical researchers, proposes that a rogue mint employee or small group of employees was deliberately creating error coins over many years, possibly as a long-term investment scheme or as a form of artistic expression, with the knowledge that such pieces would eventually be discovered and become incredibly valuable. Theory 3, the most controversial and conspiracy-oriented explanation, suggests that these coins represent something far more significant, possibly experimental currency related to classified government programs, with the errors and unusual compositions being intentional markers to identify prototype pieces that were never supposed to enter general circulation but somehow did through security breaches or deliberate leaking. The auction of the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime generated even more intense interest than the previous coins because by the time it came to market, the pattern connecting all four specimens had been widely publicized in numismatic circles, and collectors understood they weren't just bidding on an isolated error but rather on a piece of a larger puzzle. Heritage Auctions handled the sale, and the pre-auction publicity was extensive, with the auction house producing a special catalog devoted entirely to this coin and the theories surrounding it. When bidding opened, it immediately became clear that this was going to be a historic event, with major players from previous auctions returning alongside new bidders who had been following the developing story. The price quickly escalated past $100 million, then $150 million, then $200 million, with most observers expecting it might actually surpass the 2018 P-Coin's $265 million record given all the publicity and intrigue. Ultimately, the hammer fell at $211 million, with the winning bidder being a private collector who stated publicly that he intended to loan the coin to the Smithsonian Institution for display alongside the other specimens so researchers could continue studying the connections between them. The sale generated front-page news coverage in major newspapers, and even caught the attention of congressional representatives who began asking questions about mint security and accountability. In the wake of these discoveries and the massive publicity surrounding these four Roosevelt Dimes, the United States Mint issued an official statement acknowledging that irregularities in production procedures did occur during the time periods in question, but stopping short of confirming that the coins were part of any deliberate program or experiment. The statement, carefully worded by government lawyers, essentially said that mint operations involve billions of coins and millions of individual production steps, and that despite rigorous quality control, occasional anomalous pieces can and do escape into circulation, and that the mint takes such occurrences seriously and continues to improve its procedures. However, the statement did not address the specific questions about the micro-engravings, the composition similarities, or the statistical improbability of four such spectacular errors occurring across different years and facilities, and this lack of detailed explanation only fueled further speculation and conspiracy theories among collectors and researchers. For those of you watching who are now absolutely determined to search for 2000 P Roosevelt Dimes, and honestly, after everything we've covered today, you should be examining every Roosevelt dime that passes through your hands. Here's your action plan for identifying potentially valuable specimens. First, focus on the year 2000 with particular attention to P Mint mark coins from Philadelphia, and examine every single one under magnification looking for any hint of double images, unusual design elements, or anything that seems off. Second, If you have access to a digital microscope or high-powered loupe, scan the rim areas carefully for any micro-engravings or unusual marks, because even if you find a coin without the major errors, the presence of those mysterious engravings could indicate it's related to this group of specimens. Third, pay attention to color and luster, because even subtle differences in how light reflects off the surface could indicate composition anomalies worth investigating further. Fourth, weight every suspicious coin precisely, because even tiny deviations from the standard 2.268 grams could be significant. Fifth, don't limit yourself to just 2000 p, because the pattern we've discovered suggests there might be other years and mint marks involved that simply haven't been discovered yet, so examine all Roosevelt dimes from the late 1990s through the early 2020s with heightened awareness. And sixth, document everything, photograph your finds, keep detailed records, and share information with the collector community, because solving this mystery is going to require collaboration and data sharing across thousands of collectors. The market for Roosevelt dimes, particularly from the years 2000, 2002, 2003, and 2018, has been absolutely transformed by these discoveries, with even common date coins from these years now selling for premiums because collectors are searching through them so intensively. Coin dealers report that customer requests for Roosevelt dime rolls from specific years have increased dramatically, and banks in some areas have actually run short of dimes because of collectors withdrawing large quantities for searching. Online marketplaces show thousands of listings for Roosevelt dimes with sellers claiming to have errors or varieties, though of course, the vast majority of these claims are unfounded or represent minor variations of no particular value, but the enthusiasm and energy in the market is undeniable. Professional grading services have expanded their Roosevelt dime error categories and hired additional specialists specifically to handle the increased submission volume, and they report that while most submissions are common coins with no significant errors, they are seeing an uptick in legitimate minor error discoveries, suggesting that intensive searching is indeed uncovering previously unnoticed varieties. The academic and research implications of these four coins extend far beyond just their monetary value, because they represent case studies in manufacturing quality control, metallurgy, die production, and the intersection of technology and traditional craftsmanship in modern minting. University researchers have published papers analyzing the error mechanisms, the statistical probabilities involved, and the historical context of mint operations during the relevant time periods. Forensic analysis of the micro-engravings using advanced imaging techniques and computer analysis has revealed that they appear to follow a mathematical pattern or code, though no one has yet successfully deciphered their meaning. Some researchers have suggested the engravings might be steganographic, hiding information within what appears to be random marks, while others believe they might be artistic signatures or simply manufacturing identification codes whose key has been lost. The mystery continues to deepen rather than resolve, and every new analytical technique applied to these coins seems to raise more questions than it answers. The investment perspective on these four Roosevelt dimes is particularly interesting because they represent a unique asset class that combines numismatic value, historical significance, mystery and intrigue, and pure rarity in a package that appeals to collectors, investors, and even casual observers. Financial advisors who work with high-net-worth individuals have noted increased interest in rare coins generally and in these Roosevelt dimes specifically as alternative investments that offer both appreciation potential and tangible ownership. Insurance companies have developed specialized policies to cover these ultra-high-value coins, and security companies have created custom storage solutions including climate-controlled vaults with biometric access controls. The coins have been featured in wealth management seminars and investment conferences, presented as examples of how alternative assets can diversify portfolios beyond traditional stocks, bonds, and real estate. Some analysts predict that if and when these coins come to market again in future years, they could each surpass $300 million or even $400 million given the continuing publicity and the limited supply of comparable pieces. The cultural impact of these discoveries has been equally significant, bringing mainstream attention to coin collecting in ways the hobby hasn't experienced since the state quarter program of the late 1990s and early 2000s. News articles, television features, and social media discussions have introduced millions of people to the concept of error coins and the potential value hiding in everyday pocket change. Schools have incorporated coin collecting into their mathematics and history curricula, using these Roosevelt dimes as examples of probability, quality control, and economic value. Young people who might never have considered numismatics as a hobby have become engaged through YouTube videos, TikTok posts, and Instagram accounts dedicated to coin hunting and error identification. The hobby has been revitalized and demographic studies show significant increases in collectors under age 35, a trend that had been declining for decades but has reversed sharply since these high-profile discoveries. Now, as we wrap up this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable and mysterious Roosevelt dimes ever discovered, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and a call to action. What we've learned today is that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that every coin deserves a second look, and that the mysteries of modern minting are far from solved. The pattern connecting these 4 coins suggests that there may be more specimens out there waiting to be discovered, possibly from other years we haven't even considered, and you could be the person who makes the next earth-shattering find. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime worth $211 million, the 2002 P worth $219 million, the 2003 D worth $228 million, and the 2018 P worth $265 million started their journeys as ordinary pocket change that someone almost spent without a second thought, and they were rescued from obscurity only because alert individuals took the time to examine their coins carefully and recognized that something was different. So here's what I want you to do right now, as soon as you finish watching this video. First, go through every bit of change you have in your house, your car, your pockets, your piggy banks, and examine every single Roosevelt dime with fresh eyes, knowing what you now know. Second, invest in proper coin examination tools. A decent jeweler's loupe costs less than $20 but could help you discover a fortune. Third, establish relationships with your local banks and start searching through rolls of dimes regularly, because consistency is key to finding rare varieties. Fourth, educate yourself further about Roosevelt dime errors by joining online forums, reading numismatic publications, and studying grading guides. Fifth, never assume a coin is worthless just because it looks common, because as we've learned today, appearances can be deceiving. And finally, share this information with friends and family, because the more people searching for these treasures, the more likely we are to solve the mystery of what really happened at the United States Mint during these crucial years. The story of these 4 Roosevelt dimes is still being written, and new chapters are added every time another piece of the puzzle is discovered. Researchers continue analyzing the coins using ever more sophisticated technology, collectors continue searching through billions of dimes hoping to find related specimens, and the debate continues about whether these errors were accidental or deliberate, random or coordinated, mistakes or messages. What we know for certain is that these 4 coins have transformed our understanding of modern numismatics, proved that incredible value can still be found in circulation, and reminded us that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight. The next discovery could happen tomorrow, it could happen next week, or it could happen right now in the change you're carrying in your pocket, and that possibility, that potential for life-changing discovery, is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. Thank you so much for staying with me through this incredible journey exploring these 4 extraordinary Roosevelt dimes. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the Coin Merchant channel for more deep dives into rare and valuable coins, and drop a comment below telling me which of these 4 coins fascinated you the most and whether you're going to start searching your change for Roosevelt dimes. Remember, every coin has a story, every error has value, and your fortune might be waiting in the very next dime you encounter, so keep searching, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of paying attention to the small things in life, because sometimes, those small things are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Until next time, this is the Coin Merchant reminding you that your next big discovery is just a coin flip away.